Today, we're looking at Private Reserve's Spearmint. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Private Reserve's Spearmint is a green ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a D-like alpha with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is we see yellow across the bottom. We see this green and the blue across the top. Now, I believe this is 3 different inks and that green is not a mixing of the yellow and the blue. And that's because of how it looks on the next chromatography. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And we see that this yellow, we see this kind of minty green that's in there that's pushed up. It's a very, very light green. We see some of the yellows before the darker greens that occur, and we still see that very bright blue across the top of this filter paper, which again leads me to believe that this is 3 different colors mixed together to make this particular ink, giving it some depth. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it's the lowercase h that makes me worry. The lowercase h has that part where it really blurs out. That blurring out makes me worry about losing important parts in my notes and would not have me using this as a note taker if I go back and highlight. Now, that is not surprising when you think about how the chromatography went, or when you look at what happens with water, where water completely reactivates, is completely lifting it. Now, not all of the ink is gone yet. It only had 30 seconds, and you are definitely seeing the white of the paper coming through where the ink used to be. Pen flesh doesn't do anything more than water did, because water is all that it's going to take to get this out of your pen. And the 1/3 bleach solution completely obliterates it and would be unnecessary to clean your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Spearmint has a viscosity of 2.43, making it normal and pretty close to average. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Now, I don't know if there was something wrong with the sample I had, or the paper I had, or what in the world was going on, but Private Reserve Spearmint, for me, had an average dry time of 36 seconds. Ridiculously long. It's off my scale. It's what we would call an outlier. It's so far away from normal that we don't actually count it in the calculations. But regardless, its average dry time was 36 seconds. Now, let's look at the writing samples.
I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding and no ghosting, the 1.1. Look at the 1.1. There's a lot of spread. It's spreading. That's some of the thickest 1.1 I have ever seen. It's got significant spread. It's got no feathering, no halo, no sheen, and no shade, but And I was looking back, and I remember writing with this. And I remember having that problem with the broader nibs. And I thought, maybe that was just that day. But this was a totally different day. Excuse me. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 37 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. And we got none. And the smear test, you could probably recover this if you smeared while you were writing it, and that is a perfect green right there. And we're going to come up with that green again. Tomoe River. Now, there's no bleeding, but the thing is, on the 1.1, it's quite aggressive into the page. I'm not worrying about what it does on the scrubby, because that's the scrubby, but it's aggressive into the paper on the 1.1, not like it is on the medium or the extra fine. It doesn't bleed. Of course it ghosts. The 1.1 has significant spread. This is where I start to wonder what's going on, right? It has significant spread. It has no feather, no halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 31 seconds to dry. The medium has no feather, spread. It has halo all over it. Beautiful. No sheen, no shade, 75 seconds to dry. Really, it became comical just waiting. I knew this was going to be bad when I did the extra fine, but oh my God, 75 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation. Both scrubbies show us halo, though. I only got it in the medium. I didn't get it in the extra fine. The smear test, I wish it was that green. This is not a bad green. This is a very nice green. I wish it was this green. We'll see that green again. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. This is all where the scrubby is. I'm putting it on stupid thick. The 1.1 has no feather. And it has spread all over it. No halo, no sheen, no shade. I've compared this to, a whole stack of other 1.1 writing, and none of my 1.1 writing is anywhere near the thickness here. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. I don't feel like that's worth it, although I like that color. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 34 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We got none. And the smear test you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. That's a beautiful green, which takes me to the beautiful green that we're getting to. So I took my notes in a Delike Alpha, same ink, totally different nib. Look at the difference, and this gets shading. Here, none. It's a little bit drier nib on a Delike. Beautiful, beautiful tones, beautiful shading. Nice dark green. Beautiful. You need the right nib for this pen. Or the right nib for this ink. TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, some ghosting. The 1.1. No feather. And spread. A lot of spread. I don't know what it is. This ink does not like a stub or a very broad nib. No halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 17 seconds to dry. God-awful times with this ink. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 31 seconds to dry. On TWSBI, I think that's the longest drying ink on TWSBI paper I have come across. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect any. We didn't get any. In the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Monokaki. No bleeding. That's not a bleed spot. That's transfer from a page underneath. And this doesn't count because it's a scrubby where I go wild like an angry badger into there. So that's not that fault. But there is a lot of halo. It's a thinner paper. The 1.1 has a lot of feathering this time. And a lot of spread. I mean, look at the word reserve. Feather and spread like crazy. The mint part, feather and spread like crazy. I don't know what in the world. No halo, no sheen, no shade for the 1.1. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 22 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 22 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect any, and we didn't get any in the smear test. Yeah, you could recover it. So this is 20-pound copier paper. Let's say it touched the page underneath and underneath. It touched 2 pages underneath. Yeah, we'll just say it has some show through. That's nice. The medium has spread, has feather, has no halo, no sheen, no shade, but I didn't expect good results, especially once I saw the back. The extra fine has spread, has feathering all over all of it. But at least it's tiny feathers all over. Like it truly is very tiny feathers all over it. So I guess it would be usable if you don't mind hitting the next 2 pieces of paper. No halo, no sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. Oh, it's got that going for it because it absorbs into the next 2 pages. The scrubby shows no color variation. I know on camera it looks like there's a little right there. It's not in person. The smear test, good news, you can't smear it because it's absorbing 2 pages down. And that is all that I have for the writing.
Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve Spearmint, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Being a great green, I was really thinking of an orange and kind of an orangey brown, maybe a golden orange for this. I went with Krishna's Orange Honey, an iron gall ink. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Spearmint? This is a gorgeous dark green ink. It gives really nice shading. I like how it looks in broad nibs. I like how it looks in fine nibs. The fact that it performs so well, it has some decent shading that can show up very nicely with the right pen and paper. But I did find that it did not seem to enjoy my wetter broads because sometimes the writing spread a bit, but it really did spread and not look nice when I used it in stub nibs. So I have found I use this with mediums because it looks its best. It looks okay in the fine. It works well and the color looks good in broad. You just need really big writing to compensate for the spread because that broad's going to look about like a double broad. Great ink, just needs the right pen. Thanks for watching.